Okay, so now we're going to bind it. Just before I bind, I'm just going to take the skeleton here and I'm right clicking set preferred angle. This exists under skeleton, and there is set preferred angle and assume preferred angle. They're similar to going to the bind pose, okay, and they're kind of handy to have. So I tend to always use that set preferred angle. Now I'm going to select the skeleton, grab the mesh, and I'm going to go to skin and bind skin. When I go to the bind skin and hit reset settings, we're going to see it says closest distance. We're doing the joint hierarchy, maximum influence. I'm just going to change that to say 3. And there's this wonderful drop-off slider that's missing. I'm not sure why they took it out, but they did. If I go in the closest distance, I switch to geodesic voxel, we get a fall-off slider now. If I go back to closest distance, the drop-off rate is back. Okay, I'm not sure what that's about, but there it is, sitting at value of 4. 4 is going to give me a soft kind of binding. What I like is I like a bit more of a crunchy binding. Maybe, actually, let's do this one here, because it's actually I tend to play around with this drop off here. I usually either go 4 or 10. 4 works really well for the torso, but for the hands and for the feet and stuff, it's kind of soft, and so you have to do a lot more skinning. You're painting skin weights, adjusting the weights. So I'm going to keep it that way for this, but typically I'll put it up to 10. I'm going to hit apply. And now I can go in here and grab these knees. I do this, I kind of see this seems a little bit doughy when I rotate these. Okay, it's a little bit squishy. Actually, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to do it my way. I'm going to undo this. Get rid of the bind. So there's the bind. Have it a drop off of 10 when I hit apply. And I grab these joints. I do this. See, it's a bit more stiff and crunchy. Okay. On the arms and legs, this is a lot easier to skin. So I'm going to make your life a bit easier. I'll keep it as a demo. And I'll close this up. Maximum influence is 3. I put that on so that basically it accommodates the hands. Typically you want just 2. And then you can usually do most of your work with just 2. But anyway. So that's working out. When I grab this here, that's not too bad. What about my toes? Not too bad. The toes you're not going to see. They're going to be inside these shoes, right? So you probably won't notice this. I'm just going to hide my shoes for now. And actually, let's just grab that. And I'll do something like this. You can see, yeah, it doesn't look that great right there. But typically, I will go in here and right-click and go to the Paint Skin Weights tool. If you've named everything up in here, this is wonderful, right? Everything's named. Looks like I was playing around with this earlier, so I've kind of closed some things down. But this is going to take a while to navigate. So to select your joints, so what I've found is you right-click and you go Select Influence, it'll quickly go to the balls of your feet. This makes this a little bit easier to use, and I'm using Add. I tend not to use Replace or Scale. Some people use Replace and they try and use a lower value on Replace to remove weighting. This causes a lot of problems, so I tend to avoid that. I usually use Add and Smooth. So I'm going to use Add. I'm going to add this in. Okay. Oh, I've also turned on the color ramp down here so I can see all these colors. So I've done that. Paint in the toes here. Any of the toe jam, no. And then maybe I can go up and I'll put it to smooth, and I can smooth out some of these areas here. Again, smooth is kind of like the devil. Sometimes it does exactly what you want, and then it'll totally screw up your life otherwise. Here, then we'll just go up to the ankle. I'm going to go back to add this in so it's really stiff on the ankle. Okay. That looks relatively good. And by making it really stiff and white on the ankle, that's taking it away from influence from anything else. So the white means it's being influenced by just that. And you see right here, we've got this blue area. This is when I have the knee selected. So this knee is affecting this area. It's actually affecting this area over here. That's one of these things where if I'm waiting, sometimes I'll be using something called a geodesic voxel to get rid of problems like that, but we can fix that easily enough. What I might do is, let's just go over here for a second, and I'm going to grab, say, this vertice, hold down Shift, double click, get a vertice loop, and because we just noticed the weight from the knee was just on these ones, if I go in and I use the hammer will average this influence based on the vertices outside of the selection. And so now when I go back to the Paint Skin Weights tool, we'll see the knee is no longer affecting this area. It's being blended from the ankle and the balls of the foot joint. Okay, so we're on the knee. I'm on add stuff to the knee, and we're not getting anything. What if I reselect? There we go. Something funky I've noticed with a tool. Sometimes you have to use the reselect. Or get off the tool, then come back to it, or something like that. And I'm just seeing that when I'm crunching this to the knee, it just doesn't look very nice here. So I might be doing some kind of averaging thing. So what happens when I grab this edge loop and I move that to vertices and I hit it with the hammer? Hammer do me any favors? Not really. I'm going to have to come back to this one and fix it with the component editor. Actually, let's do it right now, because I like to always. I'm working from the bottom of my hierarchy up, so I usually go from toe up to hip. Then I'll come and do the head, and then I'll do the hand all the way into here, and then I'll work my way over here. That's the fastest way I've found to go. Some people kind of go all over the place, but I have this organized way of doing it, and it seemed to find it works better. Let's go over here to Window, General Editors, and there's a thing called the Component Editor, and I'm on Smooth Skins. There's a whole schwack of stuff you can get in here. The one that's really valuable is Smooth Skins, and this shows me the influence on the ankle joint and the knee joint, okay? And this is getting too much, it looks like this is getting too much ankle, okay? Because it's popping forward with the ankle and the ankle joints are rotating forward. So I'm going to grab the knee here, highlight this. You can type in values in here as long as they equal 1. You can go beyond 1, but I don't want to show you that. But I'm going to use this as a slider. Ooh, right there, probably about 2%. 2% by the ankle. And that looks almost perfect. Okay, I'll come back to this again later on. Again, I could type in like 0.8 and I'd be almost totally on, but I just eyeball it based on what I showed. Okay, go back here, Paint Skin Weights tool. That was the knee that I'm going to go up. And you see the knees affecting this area up in here. If I go to the hip and I use add, as soon as I add this in, I go back to the knee. That's no longer affecting this area. Oh crap. Also be careful when you undo too quickly. If you do a lot of undos as you're painting skin weights, you can crash. Okay, I've found it gets a little bit fussy. Same thing with a smooth. Sometimes a smooth will make you crash. So I'm on the hip here, and I'm adding. I was just noticing that my pivot point's getting funny, so I'm just going to grab the hip joint. I'm going to hit F, and now my camera will rotate around that as I'm painting skin weights. Go back to this. Okay, paint the skin weights in here, and I get up to around this area, and that's when I start to go, you know what, I'm going to stop. And maybe I'll see what's smooth going to do for me in here. Anything? My values aren't down or anything, are they? No. In reality, I actually need another joint in here, but yeah, I'm skipping over that. What about pelvis? Select influence. Let's see if we can smooth this a little bit. That's smoothing out. What if I go back here to the root, and I might just use add. I'm going to turn down my opacity, so when I add it in, it fits lower and smoother as it does this area. I also feel like I want to hit it with the hammer, but come back to that. I'm going to stop right around here. It looks like we'll actually get right down into the crotch. Add, so that's solid in the center. And then I can hit smooth and smooth this area out over here. Go back up to the pelvis joint. Actually, I'll go to this joint here, smooth it. My opacity's down, so I'm going to crank it up as I smooth it. And like I said, sometimes it's the devil. Hopefully I won't have any devil problems right now. I'll call it good enough. Okay, and we can see that it was affecting the other side still. I'm just going to grab the whole thing and go assume preferred angle. And I can take the mesh and go to skin, and I can mirror the skin weights. Positive and negative, mirror. And now when I check it out, I go over here to paint skin weights tool. Oh, you bastard. Hip joints affecting this area. What if I go to select influence? Actually, let's just check this out when I right click the mesh, paint skin weights tool, select that influence. It's affecting this area. Should not be. Okay. This thing should be in the center. Everything should be fine. Right click. Assume preferred angle. Nothing twitched. Grab the mesh. Go to skin. Mirror skin weights. And I'm going positive to negative closest joint. 1 to 1. Apply. Let's just see what happens. I'm going to go to the paint skin weights tool. Doing the same thing. What's this? Closest joint. My trick is not working. Right click, select influence. I am in 2024, so this is probably not the best place to be. Closest point on surface, right cap maybe? That changed something, but it didn't do what I wanted it to. Almost want to go back a version or two. I'm going to come back to this later on. One thing I can do is, in here is blue, so this is like a very small weight influence. I'm just going to check under skin, prune small weights, and 0.01. Let's see what happens when I hit apply. Tricky. That just got rid of it. And if I go back now, and I'm just going to try the mirror skin weights. Let's make sure I'm in object mode when I do this. Skin. And I go and do the mirror skin weights. Actually, just double check. Let's go in here and edit, reset settings. IZ, positive and negative, closest point, mirror, boom. Grab this, go to the paint skin weights tool. There's my knee. What about this? Okay, it looks like the prune small weights fixed my issue. Okay, good. And we're at the 13-minute mark. Let's go and isolate this thing. And I'm just gonna, there we go. And I'm gonna go and find the head joint. So the head joint's up here. And the head, we can use add and add this in. There might be some stuff that's hard to pick in the mouth and in the eyes here. And so what I will typically do, paint around it. Okay, easy to paint, great. I'm just going to go and I'm going to grab the head in the UV editor. So here it is in the UV editor. I can select the vertices in the mouth, and there's my eyes right there. Okay, so those are selected. And then I could go back to the paint skin weights tool, right click, paint skin weights tool. And let's go to vertex again. Interesting, it kicked me out of the vertex mode, so I had to come back into it. And now I'm painting with a head here, and I'm on add. I can just hit flood, and it will get all the selected vertices. Then just go back here and right click, go select the mesh again. I can paint weights. Just painting in the mouth and in the eyes sometimes, maybe even the whole head. I could select all the vertices here in the UV editor and then flood it. Okay, if I'm having any issues. One of my favorite tricks. Okay, I'm just gonna do something like this. And I'll mirror this afterwards, so it doesn't really matter. I'm just doing this just to kind of test it out. Okay, that should be good. And let's see what this looks like. Let's turn this off. I'm just going to grab this joint, neck 2 and 1. I'll just rotate them a little bit. You can see the teeth and stuff like that. I need to parent those in and do more weighting, but I'm just going to say this is good enough for now. And I might do something like, what if I grab this vertice, this one here, I'm going to grow the selection. I'm just going to hit that with a hammer, averages it out. And let's do the same thing down here. Grow, grow. I'll do it again. I'm just being lazy, so I don't have to paint skin weights quite so much. And hit it with a hammer. And that seems to be working out relatively well. Oh, look up in here, there's some issues. So let's go in and paint the skin weights with this one. What do we got there? How about I use a bit of smooth action? And I've got the head selected. There's smooth is working out relatively well. Now maybe I'll go to the neck 2 joint and see how that looks. I don't want to lose any form on this, so maybe the chin. I go back to the head, hit add. Maybe I'll add that in so it's really solid on the chin. And then I'll smooth out a little bit below that. Go down here and hit smooth again. That looks like it might be doing a bit more what I want to do. I'll be doing some mirroring on that, so I don't have to paint in here. That'll be a pain in the ass. And then I can just grab this joint, right click, assume preferred angle. It goes back to the desired position. Basically that bottom one doesn't really move that much, but the top one does. I'm just kind of looking to see if that neck does anything really weird. I think that's fine. A little bit of this, I can see something funky starting to happen there. I'm spending way too long on this. Let's go to this one. I'm just going to be using the smooth action. This one, smooth that out a bit. Just got to be careful. Like I said, the smooth sometimes will disperse the weighting across the whole mesh, and then you'll be really, really, really sad. Really sad. Okay, grab that again. Oops. This one, right click, assume preferred angle. Done. Okay, and I could spend more time on that. By the way, things like the teeth and tongue, I could probably just grab these teeth and maybe there's the tongue selected. Grab that joint, and when I go in here to skin, bind skin, I'll, instead of joint hierarchy, I'll use selected joints, and that way when I bind it, they're just weighted completely to this joint, head joint, and when I move them around, they fall around perfectly. I'm going to do some different rigging with the eyes later on. So I'll leave those for now. The hair as well, like if I grab that joint and I grab these hair pieces here and I bind them, now we'll see, god damn it. That skin, bind skin, it'll move the hair around and it'll just follow. So we don't have any weird issues. Great. Okay, actually there's one trick. You might notice that the hair isn't following the head exactly. If I grab this mesh and I grab the hair last, if I go in here to skin, just because the base isn't moving quite right, if I go and I use a copy skin weights, it'll copy from the lower, or for the first selected mesh to the second one. And so now when I grab this and move it, it's going to fall around almost perfectly. I'm not going to crash or anything funky. Okay, so this one here, and I'm going to stop. You know about that mirroring and everything like that. So I just want to show the fingers, and I'm going to do this with the component editor. Let's put on the wireframe unshaded. I'll just grab these finger joints, and I'm going to rotate them down a little bit so you can see this. Hit F and frame it, because this is going to be faster. So I'm going to grab the mesh, and right now we're in object mode. I'm just going to switch to component mode so you can easily select vertices without selecting the joint. my joint size is a little bit big. I'm just going to go here to display animation, and I'm just going to take my joint size and make it a little bit smaller so it's easier to digest visually. Okay, great. Then I'm going to go over here to Windows, General Editors, Component Editor. And in the Component Editor, springs, particles, weighted deformers, we want smooth skins. And again, I'm going to move into component mode here for vertices. I'm going to grab these vertices down here, and I can see what joints they're being influenced by. And so there's index 3 and 4. Okay, so the fourth is the end joint down here. This doesn't do anything, so I'm just going to grab this stuff and I'm going to put it all to joint 3, that joint right there. And I could probably do the same with this stuff. Here, that's going to be joint 3. Okay, I'm just rotating around looking. Great. Let's grab, say, this one. I'm just going to turn that rotate tool off, double click on this one so I can get that whole loop right there. And I think that should be on joint 3. Let's hit backspace and put 1 in there. And that's 100%. Okay, so there's joint number 2. Index number 2 is up here. So if I grab this one, double click on that one. There. This section here should be weighted pretty much 100% to that joint. So that's number 2. So I'm just going to take this and make sure it's like 1. Okay, great. Okay, it adds up to a total of 1. Then let's take this one, double click here. And this one looks to me like, where is it? It's a little bit on the other side of this joint. So I'm going to say primarily joint 2, and let's type in, say, 0.8 and see how that goes. That's pretty tight right there. That looks good. How about this one? This one I can't tell. I like 0.5 on them. And if I want to, I can highlight it. Let's go to, say, number 3 here. There's a little slider at the bottom, and it's highlight here. And because I've got it rotated, I can kind of see it in real time how it's going to deform. And there, I just kind of fixed it up a bit. I'll do the same thing up in here. Let's go and do this. So this one, double click. I'll grow the selection. This area here should be influenced primarily by that joint, which is, right click on it, there's number 1. Okay, if you name everything, you see these are all pretty much 100%. And that's because I used that drop-off rate of 10 way back when I was skinning, okay? That's why it's doing these settings for me. It's having actually a nice tight drop-off. This one from here to here in the middle section, that should be about 0.5. This is almost exactly what it's supposed to be, so I'm going to type in 0.5. And this one, oops, crap, that vertice, double click on that one, gives you a whole vertex loop. This should be weighted primarily to joint number 1. I'm just going to type in, say, 0.6. Okay, and then I can take the little slider and I can increase it. Yes, just like that. So it's being pretty tight. There's going to be a little bit of crash in this area, and that's kind of what you expect. And there's joint number 2. I'm just going to type in 0.8. And I suspect that's pretty much what I want. And I like that. I guess I've stylized the fingers too much. I think I got kind of little funny hooks on them and stuff. Let's go back here to, let's go to the joints. I'm in component mode, so I'm just, F8 will get you out of there, but it also triggers some other hotkeys on other software that I got open, so I'm not going to do that. Grab the rotate tool, rotate this joint, and you can kind of see how it's crashing a little bit in here. It's kind of giving me a kind of an even change on the outside. A little bit of crash is kind of natural looking almost. Again, I could spend some time adjusting this. Actually, as I do this, what if I realize, okay, maybe I was smoking crack? If I grab, say, that vertice, that one, and that one, and oh, they're only affected by joint 1 now because they're hiding the columns. If I go into option, auto update, hide 0 columns. Let's try it again. Hide 0 columns. So in here, I have to look, and if I'm really well named, oh God, there's too many. Where is it? If I go over this way, do I see it? See, my little funny brain will notice it. There it is right there. There's number 3, number 2. Let's highlight this. And if I go like this, I can start to increase it there and take it away from that other one. Okay, and I could do that throughout these here if I wanted to. But like I said, a little bit of crash looks kind of natural to me. And what I'll be doing, take this, assume preferred angle. I'm going to be doing the weights the whole way up the arm. And then when I'm done, I'm going to take this and I'm going to go to skin, and I'll hit it with the mirror skin weights. And then I'm just going to double check on this side because we're hitting the 25-minute mark. This is a long video. Okay, and I should be getting pretty much the same thing. Okay, there we go. Good God. Okay, and I'm going to stop here, and then I'm just going to start putting in the rig. Yeah, and I'm going to show some other weighting magic tricks. I would kind of keep your weighting to a rough amount on this model. I wouldn't get too overly crazy about it. Like, I might come back to the hands later on, just because sometimes there'll be something wrong with your rig, and then you have to go back and change all the bones and everything, and you have to come back to weighting, and weighting seems to take a while. And so, yeah, we're going to go into the hardcore rigging next, and then I'll probably do some weighting later on. I'll stop here though.